So far this season, Liam, through 58 games, the Oilers have hit the 5-goal mark in a hockey game 10 times. They've scored 4 or more goals 26 times out of 58 games. That is, pretty well below 50% of the games where they're not getting to 4 goals. And yes, you should be able to win some games by scoring 3, but this is kind of my whole argument is there aren't games where their offense is bailing them out. And I know, again, the defense isn't bailing them out and the goaltending's not bailing them out either, but this team's bread and butter is supposed to be their offensive attack and how dangerous they can be offensively. How many teams can run a group of 4 centers like McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent, Adam Henrique, right? Like, how many teams have a guy like Corey Perry who's going to have a 15, 16 goal season playing on absolutely nothing but their fourth line? I shouldn't say absolutely nothing, but playing the majority of his time on the fourth line. So anyways, I went and looked, Liam. Last season at the 58 game mark, the Oilers had 5 or more goals in a game 13 times. So 3 more times than this year just by the 58 game mark, and 4 or more goals 30 times. So 4 more times than this season. So when you sit there and look at that, you might say that it's only 4 games out of 58, but still, that's the difference between 4 wins and 8 standings points and all of that, right? Like, this offense is not bailing them out the way it used to. And not only that, they'd only been shut out twice at the 58 game mark this season. They've been shut out 4 times already this season, twice as many times. They've been held to 0 goals. Like, this offense being as quiet as it is it's stunning, man. And that's the part that's concerning to me. Like, can they find a way to turn on the Jets at some point here and have an offense that's number 1 in the NHL? Like, I do still think there's maybe a little bit of an argument that they're a touch unlucky when you look at the last sort of 4 to 6 weeks as a whole. But these last 3 games, they've shown nothing. How many shifts have there been where you're like, okay, they just had, I shouldn't say shifts. How many runs have there been when it's been 3 or 4 shifts where you're like, holy shit, they look like a miles better hockey team than the opponent? Like, it's not happening. Connor McDavid's not been as electric, although I will say last night against Tampa was one of his better games in recent memory. And Leon Draisaitl's an absolute hoss. Like, he's the MVP this year. But outside of that, they just can't get anything going. And it's mind-boggling that after a summer where you go and say, okay, we went from McLeod to Henrique. That should at worst be a lateral kind of move. You go from Fogle to Arvidsson. Whoever the hell this Victor Arvidsson, it's not the Victor Arvidsson we watched play for LA the last few years, but that was supposed to be an upgrade on Warren Fogle. Never mind a lateral move. Never mind the fact that it's been a significant downgrade. You look at all these guys on the roster, and it's the same old, same old. If Connor and Leon aren't carrying the team, there's nothing going on offensively. And then when Connor McDavid's not on his supernova level, which has basically been a stretch now that we've been looking at for 6 weeks where he hasn't looked like peak takeover a game Connor McDavid, we're sitting here watching an offense that can't carry a team, a blue line that, struggles to get the puck to the offense. Maybe that's part of the issue, but a blue line that just bleeds poor decisions and poor turnovers, and a goalie who can't steal a game right now either. And certainly, remember when they went on that 16-game heater, Liam, and it was 3-1 win, 2-1 win, 4-2 win, and it was all these low-scoring wins, and it's like, man, this is how a Stanley Cup contender operates. They are just miles away from that in every single facet of the game, and the goaltending stinks, and the defense stinks. At least that's mildly predictable. But where the hell is the elite offense we're used to watching?
Yeah, and you mentioned there too, it's, what was it, 4 games they've been shut out, and you think back to earlier in the season, they get the really late goal against Dallas, and the same against Columbus too, so you could have even pushed it to 6 if they didn't show up in the last minute of those games, and I'm sure there's another one out there as well. It's very alarming. What makes it more alarming is that, like, Jeff Skinner can't seem to get any ice time. And I went back and looked yesterday, since the Penguins game, which was, I think, late January, whatever it was, he had only been on the ice for 2 goals against, and they both came against Philly the other day. He had been on the ice for 6 goals for. So for me, a guy that's playing about 10 minutes a night, that's a really good player that you want to be having in your lineup when your team's struggling to score. And Coombs said on the show yesterday, maybe it's because they wanted like less risky plays, and that's why they took out him and Klingberg and brought in Janmark and Stetcher to like less risk, I guess you could say. But I think they maybe need to be a bit more riskier on the offense if it isn't working out for them too. It's such a bad time for them at the moment. I don't think this is obviously their true identity. Like they're gonna find themselves again. Like they're still in a pretty good spot, and like you don't want to give up wins, but they're able to do it still. I guess you could say, which is good. So I don't know. I obviously worrying. I would like to see a bit more consistency in the lines. Like for me, Janmark probably doesn't need to be on the third line as often as he is, and like if Kapanen's making those plays, he's got to be out of the lineup. And Arvidsson, like you said, like where has that guy been all season? It is alarming, but they're gonna find their game back sooner rather than later. I don't know when though. Hopefully tomorrow.
You want some more alarming stats?
No.
Again, I don't want this to turn into like criticizing Connor McDavid or whatever, but Liam, do you want to take a guess on when the last time Connor McDavid was on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for?
Oh boy. Toronto.
Wow. Great work. That is tremendous guessing from you. But yeah, it's been Tampa, Washington, Philly, Colorado, Chicago, St. Louis, and then Toronto. It's been 6 games since Connor McDavid's been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal for. And in those games, they've been out of those 6, they've been outshot in 4 of those 6. They've been outshot when Connor McDavid's on the ice at 5-on-5. And listen, like, and this maybe goes back to the Bouchard thing. Like the expectations on these guys are higher, and who am I to sit here and dump on a generational player in Connor McDavid for how he's playing as of late and who knows what he's going through, all of that stuff. But like the Oilers need their best players to be their best to win hockey games because the depth ain't doing it right now. And when Bouchard's playing the way he is and turning over pucks, and people sit there in my Twitter mentions and be like, why won't you talk about Brett Kulak's turnovers? Why won't you talk about John Klingberg's turnovers? Because they're not the top pairing defenseman who is part of the engine that drives this team. And if you're going to sit here and be like, why are you ripping on I'm not ripping on Connor McDavid. Why are you pointing this out about Connor McDavid? Point out everything in the bottom 6. Hey, we've spent a lot of time talking about the lackluster efforts from the bottom 6. Also, Connor McDavid's Connor McDavid. Like the idea that the Oilers need him to be Connor McDavid to win hockey games is not far-fetched. So what's up, Nation citizens? If you like that video, then you need to be subscribed to the Oilers Nation YouTube. Podcasts, live shows, exclusive interviews, and analysis. Everything you need from your favorite voices at Oilers Nation. And you don't want to miss any of it, so hammer that subscribe button.